teen slashers.
The 1978 release of Halloween was the birth of the teen slasher, a genre specifically targeted towards the prime audience of the scary movie, teenagers.
I think what a lot of teenagers have in common is a fear of untimely death. But the reason it's so scary is the kids don't think this could ever happen to one of them.
So Halloween's setup of a group of all-American schoolgirls on the brink of womanhood whose lives were about to be cut short by a lone, crazed, knife-wielding psychopathic lunatic with a grudge simply couldn't fail.
Paul dragged me into the boys' locker room.
Exploring uncharted territory.
Totally charted. Just talk.
Sure.
Well, the idea in Halloween was that you have these young teenagers who are babysitting children. The whole setup, it makes for the victims being more innocent and vulnerable.
What about the boogeyman?
There's no such thing.
Richie said he was coming after me tonight.
Do you believe everything Richie tells you?
No.
The character that Jamie Lee Curtis plays in Halloween is actually really cleverly crafted, because unlike the other girls, she's sort of the geek, really. She's the outsider. She doesn't wear sexy clothing. She's obviously a virgin. She studies hard. She takes her books home from school and all her friends mock her. And all of these codes in her character make you think she's going to survive, she's going to make it.
But the same couldn't be said for Jamie's sex-obsessed friend PJ Soles.
Go get me a beer.
Once a woman crosses that line, particularly if she has sex, somehow she's fair game. You know, she's just out there, she's asking for it.
Another explanation is that there was just too much sex in the 70s.
But one man was going to put a stop to all this flagrant fornication. Moral crusader and psycho killer extraordinaire, the man with the mask, Michael Myers. Halloween builds to showcase a virtuoso deployment of the perfect scary movie rules. Jamie Lee Curtis's curiosity to the fate of her friends leads her to an isolated house where she discovers her friends have all been killed in inventive ways whilst experiencing multiple jumps. Textbook.
And she goes upstairs and, you know, your heart rate goes up one notch. She sees her best friend dead. Various doors open and, like, all her friends are revealed to her. One jump, another jump, and your heart's like, and your heart rate's already peaked, and then suddenly,
but Halloween's most enduring legacy was that its monster could never die. Michael would take a knitting needle in the neck, a knife in the chest, and 6 direct hits at point-blank range. And still he would live to stalk again.
The audience just filled in the blanks. They didn't ask why. They just went, ooh, when he wasn't there in the end, which made me feel very good.
Halloween became a massive worldwide hit, going on to become the biggest independent film ever released. Its enormous influence on the Psycho Killer movie would reverberate throughout the 1980s.
Halloween had all the elements that became a formula over the next 10 years.
It was the precursor to Friday the 13th and obviously Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street would become the biggest horror franchise of the 80s. It stuck to the rigid teen slasher formula created by Halloween, but by adding a supernatural twist, it would become the stuff of real nightmares.
Nightmare on Elm Street is the story of 4 friends, high school friends, who are plagued by the same nightmare. And they realize a child molester had been murdered by their parents in an act of vigilantism, and the end result is Freddy Krueger.
This is God.
Freddy Krueger is able to come into your dreams while you're sleeping and kill you. And if you die in your dreams, you die forever.
No one's really exploited the nightmare before. You know, Wes was really the first to know how universal and what a great hook it is, you know, because everybody has them.
So with the safety net of logic removed, Krueger was given free rein to slaughter gormless, moaning teenagers in the most flamboyant fashion imaginable.
What was great about it is that it totally frees the director and the writer's mind to kill people in the most ridiculous way possible.
And he could do anything he wanted in the dream. Yeah. So he was much more creative than the other ones.
And Freddy's masterclass in pubescent slaughter would begin in spectacular style, while still adhering to the golden rule of the Psycho Killer movie.
She's the first victim because of all of us. She's the slut.
It was more about this kind of like inexplicable violence that was this suddenly taking place, this kind of, you know, unexplained atrocity, which was where the horror came from.
Freddy's supernatural powers were both the film's biggest strength and its biggest weakness. Already dead, Freddy took the rule of the monster never dies to, frankly, silly extremes.
Well, if there's no rules to this thing, like if you beat him by saying, I don't believe in you, you exist, and he disappears, and then he's back again like 30 seconds later.
With one of the worst special effects ever.
Yeah, the ending of Nightmare on Elm Street is quite a corker in that respect for the dummy.
Old rubber legs going through the door. It's concurrent in all those films where you've got a kind of faceless, moral monster hacking up kids for, you know, having sex and drinking. But you know, how a child murderer can become a hero is you know, it's kind of like, hang on.
But child murderer Krueger did become a hero, and Nightmare on Elm Street spawned 7 sequels, during which Freddy got bumped off a death-defying 18 times. And for Hollywood, that meant $20 million per death.
One might suspect that the reason for making them would be, hey, we can make a little tiny low-budget movie using these horror cliches and make a ton of money. That's the way Hollywood thinks.
Inevitably, with any cycle, things kind of peter out. Like, you know, the end of the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels was kind of like the end of like sort of really special effects laden horror for a while. There was a point at the end of the kind of the 80s and early 90s where we'd seen everything we could possibly see with animatronic special effects, and we're kind of sick of it, and then there's a back to basics approach.
Dear viewer, we are nearing our chilling climax as we prepare to explore a new breed of scary movie, so realistic that people thought they were actually witnessing real torture, death, and cannibalism.
I think one thing I always sort of found really ridiculous was the whole sort of cannibalism thing, because I was, you know, I didn't buy that really. I don't know how anybody could, you know, how one person could eat another person. It's just ridiculous. What? What Edgar would have wanted?